Hey guys, this is Clouds. So the roadmap for Battlefield 5 has been released and it details the first 3 chapters of the so-called Tides of War. I'm going to be looking at mainly the type of content we'll be getting and the amount. So let's get into it. Chapter 1, Overture, and this is going to be from early December through January. We're going to be getting a map called the Panzerstorm map. This is, well, they have a little picture. It looks like the countryside. In the foreground we can see some purple flowers, and then in the background I see what looks like a church, some trees, and they describe it as a tank-focused map. We will also be getting the war story, The Last Tiger. The game releases with 3 war stories, and then this 4th one is released a little bit after the main release of the game. That's a little bit less than what we had in Battlefield 1, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. I feel like some of the war stories in Battlefield 1 were quite short, and so it was hard to get invested in the characters. You know, for example, I don't even remember the name of the characters, but it was the Monte Grappa single player map. You go through it, you're in the elite kit or whatever, and then you find your dead brother, and it's like, Mamma mia! This guy I only saw in a cutscene for like 5 seconds. He didn't have enough rigatonis to make it through the war. Oh, mamma mia! The Italian, we need more rigatonis. Can I get some rigatonis over here to help my brother? Oh, he can't breathe. He needs rigatonis in his mouth. I mean, it was well acted. I'm mocking it, but it was well acted. But I did not care. If anyone can remember the name of what's-his-face's brother, I don't even remember the main character's name. If you can tell me the name of the brother without Googling it, and I can't prove or disprove whether or not you do or do not Google it, so this is all just fun and games. Did anyone actually care about that guy? Come on. I gotta be honest, this screams of holding back content and then giving it away to be like, hey, we're giving away free content for the first time ever, a single player DLC. And it's like, okay, the game is releasing in mid to late November, and then they don't say exactly when the last tiger. I mean, what could they actually be doing? I'm imagining, I don't know if you've seen that commercial from back in the day where it's like game testers like sitting down and then they're like, dude, the boss is coming, man. And then this lady walks in and they're like, hey, can you tighten up the gameplay on level 3? And she's like, thanks. Hey guys, come on. I have another game for you guys to test. Hurry up. Hey, can you tighten up the gameplay and the graphics on level 3? Okay, thanks. I mean, is that what they're doing? Are they like, I don't know, maybe they are, because I've heard that the single player is not the best. They released it to game journalists and to special YouTubers, and the response was very lukewarm. Apparently the single player has very poor AI, so I don't know, maybe when they release The Last Tiger, they'll also add a patch to kind of make the single player gameplay. I doubt it. Oh, but that's not all. We will also get the, quote, initial iteration of the practice range. This is a weird one. For those of you who don't remember, sometimes I forget that Battlefield 1 might be people's first Battlefield game. But in Battlefield 4, there was the practice range. You could use weapons, there was a firing range for you to test guns, you could test any vehicle, you know, so you wouldn't have to like learn how to fly or use a tank in a active multiplayer round. It was pretty cool. For some strange reason, it was not included in Battlefield 1. I don't know why. And they're adding it in Battlefield 5, but instead of just putting it in the game, they're like, it's free content. Post-release, free content. Something interesting here, it mentions this environment can't kill you. Until someone finds the friendly fire button, that is. This could be just pure marketing talk, where they just add little flowery language for no reason. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe you and your buddies can get in a party and turn on friendly fire. I don't know. The last aspect of Chapter 1 is vehicle customization. This is another thing which vehicle skins. Why is this not in the game at release? They sort of did this thing. I can't prove this is what their motive is, but for Battlefield 1, for example, when the game released, it didn't have spectator and it didn't have hardcore. And I forget if it was 1 month or maybe it was just a couple of weeks, they released spectator and hardcore, and it's like, I don't think they described it as free content, but it was sort of like, hey, we're, look at this. We're adding stuff. And it's like, that was in the previous games on release. Why? And there was nothing that's like, and there were other aspects of Battlefield 1 that were like that, such as the ribbons. It's like, hey, it's not a big deal because it's like ribbons, who cares? But it's like, okay, the previous Battlefields had this, and this doesn't. Several months after release, you add it. Hey, remember how the previous Battlefield games had like the specializations or the perks? Hey, we're adding that. Free content. And you could argue that, well, they didn't put it in the release because they wanted to, quote unquote, tighten up the gameplay. Make sure there weren't any bugs or whatever, but I don't really buy that. Same with this, the vehicle skins, it's like they're padding out the free content that we get. So instead of having this at release, it's going to be a few weeks or a few months after release. Oh, but it gets better, or it gets worse, depending on who you are. Chapter 2, this is from January through March. We get the co-op game mode, Combined Arms. They don't talk much about this. It is a co-op experience across several maps where you and your squad will fight AI bots and challenges. Yeah, it could be interesting. It sounds like the type of thing you might do to like warm up or goof off every once in a while. It's not going to be something, you're constantly playing. Or maybe it is. Maybe this will be the equivalent of Call of Duty Zombies, where some people, they just love this co-op experience against bots. Maybe, I don't know, we'll see. Here's the kicker. During this chapter, 2 game modes will be added to Battlefield 5. The first one, a revamped Rush. Now, Rush initially was not announced for Battlefield 5, so I was very worried, and then when I saw this, I'm like, thank God. It's still one of those things where, it's sort of like the practice range. It's like, well, that was in previous games, and then it's not, and then it's like, oh, we're going to release that post-release, free content. But I could look past that because it's Rush, and I love Rush. And then I read a little further, say goodbye to MCOM stations. Oh, I don't know how I feel about that. Say hello to bombs. There's only a few sentences about this, so I don't know if it's going to be sort of a combination of Rush and obliteration. Here's the part that really softened up my cake mix, though. Only available during lightning strikes. So, if I'm reading this correctly, we get to play Rush on Battlefield 5 for about 3 months. DICE! Please! DICE, how? Okay. Oh my, I've thought about how I would react to this, and I can't think of a way. It kind of goes back to how I said I forget that Battlefield 1 is people's first Battlefield. So their idea of what Rush is and what mine is, they didn't play Battlefield 3 or, for example, maybe the Bad Company series. I'll be honest, Rush and Battlefield 1, it's not the best. You have the artillery. I've seen people get quads and quintuples off the artillery, and it's so silly. And the maps in Battlefield 1, you can tell that they were designed with either conquest or maybe operations in mind, and a game mode like Rush is sort of just thrown in there. I'll give DICE credit. You can tell that some parts of Rush in Battlefield 1 they paid a lot of attention to, and I feel like they tried their best. Maybe not their best, but they tried really hard to make it a good game mode. But when a map isn't designed with Rush in mind, often it's very hit or miss. And I do think some operation maps, if a map is designed with operations in mind, it can become a very decent Rush map. But Rush in Battlefield 1 was just very lackluster compared to previous Battlefield games. My first Battlefield game was Battlefield 3, and when you look at the Rush maps in that game, you know, there were maps designed specifically with Rush in mind, and there were even sections of maps only used in the Rush game mode. You know, the mountain range in Damavand Peak, that part of the map was only used in Rush, and it played very well. Those first two bases of Rush in Damavand, very fun. Tehran Highway is another good example. It's not the best Rush map, if I'm being honest, but again, the first base of Tehran Highway, you only use that section of the map in Rush, and then the second base in Rush, it's kind of used. It's the US team's spawn in Conquest, so it's kind of used, but eh. Another example is Operation Metro. The first base is in the park area, and that is only used in the Rush game mode. Well, in Battlefield 4, the park was used in Squad Deathmatch, if I remember correctly. It was actually pretty fun in that. But you see the point I'm making. And it's so funny, whenever I'm like, because I really care about Rush, so anytime it's involved in a Reddit post, I'm reading all the comments, and you'll see people who are going to be like, 64-player operations it's a better version of 64-player Rush. And it's like, well, I mean, you're right, but Rush, it's not designed for 64 players, so almost anything will be better than 64-player Rush because it's not made for that, I personally feel it's better at 24 players. Some people say 32, but even if you say 32, 64 is double of 32, if I'm doing the math correctly, which I am. It's sort of this situation of like, I don't know how to describe it, but DICE pays less attention to the Rush game mode, and therefore it's not as good, so then players don't play it as much, and then DICE is like, well, Rush, it's not a very popular game mode, so why would we divert resources to that when we can do it working on other game modes that are more popular? And then it goes back and forth, and then, the Rush is really bad, and now we're at a point where Rush is removed from the game, and it's only available for a few months. And I can already, I haven't looked yet, but I can guarantee there are going to be fellows. These people are just like eating applesauce with a fork, and they're like, it's free content. How can you complain about free content? It's a free map. And well, you got me there. It's free content, so how can I complain? Also, that's not the only game mode we'll be getting. We're getting Squad Conquest, and it is described as, quote, a classic game mode. You're really stretching the definition of classic game mode. I mean, Squad Conquest, it was only available in the CTE of Battlefield 4. I don't remember. It was never put in the main game, and it was only available for a few months. It looked fun though, so I don't know, maybe this could be fun. An interesting thing to note, they don't say that Squad Conquest will only be available through lightning strikes. So, Squad Conquest, a CTE game mode, Rush, one of the best game modes of all time. You only get it for a few months. Deal with it. It's free content. Okay, so Chapter 3. This starts in March, and we will be getting the Firestorm game mode and map, which is the Battle Royale game mode. Haven't seen too much of this. It could be amazing. It could be not amazing. I don't know. We get another map, the Greece map. What do they call this? Battle for Greece. I don't know if that's the name of the map. Maybe that's a work in progress title, but it is on the Cretan coast, and they describe it as a all-out war defined by a power struggle between tank control versus air superiority. So it sounds like it's going to be a very vehicle-centric map. Anyway, yeah, so... And there will be more chapters after Chapter 3, with new maps, new weapons, new vehicles, blah blah blah. We look forward to the first exciting months of Battlefield 5 and its expanding worlds. Okay, so let's look at the amount of maps we're going to be getting post-release. We have tank battles in Belgium, that's one. Then we have Firestorm. That's only, as far as I know, that's only available on the Battle Royale game mode, but I'll count that as a map. And then you have Battle for Greece, and that's up until sometime in March. So by March of next year, we will have 3 DLC maps added to Battlefield 5. Now, to compare that, let's look back at previous Battlefield titles. In Battlefield 3, we had Back to Karkand, released in December, a few months after the release of Battlefield 3, and we didn't have any content after that until June. So when you're comparing the timelines, we had 4 maps in Battlefield 3 compared to Battlefield 5's 3. Battlefield 4 was very, how do I describe this? Very clustered. We had China Rising in December, and then Second Assault, it was released in November, but only for Xbox One. For everybody else, it was released in February and March. And then we had Naval Strike in March. So, looking at the same timelines, we had a ton of DLC maps released for Battlefield 4. That's 3 DLCs, 4 maps each. That's 12 maps. You know? That's a lot of maps. Looking at Battlefield 1, we had the Giant Shadow map in December, and then They Shall Not Pass in March. Initially, They Shall Not Pass only had 4 maps, but then 2 other maps were added. But only going by the timelines, we had 5 maps in Battlefield 1. So, and I know what someone's gonna say. It's free content. How can you complain? I'm just making a point. Obviously, I think I read somewhere that this isn't all of the content we'll be getting, so they could add more maps in these chapters. And it's not totally indicative of the amount of content we'll get through the entire release, or rather the entire, quote, live service journey of Battlefield 5. Because, you know, let's say, for example, you look at Battlefield 3. We got a DLC in December, and then we had to wait all the way until June to get the next DLC. So maybe we'll have something similar to that with Battlefield 5, but if I'm being honest, I don't really feel like that's the case. One aspect that could be good about this is, well, quality over quantity. But even then, I don't feel like, in my opinion, the Battlefield series has slightly declined after DICE started making the Battlefront reboot. And I mean, maybe that's why they're doing that. They're doing it so they spend less time making content for Battlefield because the next Battlefront is coming up. And I'm not involved with game development, so I don't know how much time or how they, you know, how many different people go back and forth, or I don't know what's going on, but from the outside looking at the games, it feels as though DICE is strained between making the 2 series back and forth. It's free content though, how can I complain? It's difficult to explain why I'm slightly annoyed by this, because it's like, well, it is technically free content. It's just the fact that they're taking like in their previous games, practice range, vehicle skins, this stuff would have been in the game at release, and now they're releasing it after the initial release. It rubs me the wrong way that they're doing that, because it's like, dude, I get it. You're padding out the content, whatever. The game could be really fun. I'm honestly not sure how I feel about Battlefield 5. You know, it's releasing in a few weeks, so I guess I'll see you then. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye. Dice!